Hello, my name is João. I am from the location-based services team, and today I would like to show you how the synchronization tool that is available now in Maximo 7.6 works. This synchronization tool provides you the capabilities to bring data from JS to Maximo and also send data from Maximo to JS. Right now I am doing the map manager configuration, a new one that we will be using as an example during this demo today. There is another TTEC video for only map manager if you want to get all details for that. But basically I have a water network map service and I am creating a service layer for the water hydrants. This water hydrant is related to the asset and the system of record is ArcGIS. I'm doing the creation of the JS object now. Now I am going to define what will be the relationship keys of the where clause between the asset and my JS hydrant, and that's it for map manager now. Now I am going to jump to a new application named JSON mapping. Inside the JSON mapping application I will create a mapping that will provide the way the data will be loaded from JS into Maximo. Need to set up the object structure, and here I'll grab a URL that can be from the map manager, from the map service or the feature service. I need a URL that provides me only one record for now, with all fields and using JSON as the output format. I'll paste the URL here, press tab, and then the JSON data text box is populated with the information I need. And now I will build the map itself. I need to bring until the feature attributes level inside the JSON object mapping, and when I have that I'll be able to define the target and the source attributes. For the first one I am defining that the asset number is the concatenation of the word JS and the value of the facility ID attribute that's coming from JS. I can also define other attributes here like site ID. The site ID of these records will be Bedford. Description, and here I will define that using a text that will be always presented for the description inside the description of the records that I am loading with this process, and also the value of the object ID attribute that's coming from JS. Let's include one more. This is the field that contains the attribute, the value, the unique ID value from JS, and you can always click on test mapping to see how your XML looks like while you build the mapping. I also need to define the value for the +s feature class, and this is the name of the JS object that we just created using map manager. In this case is JS water hydrant, +s is JS. This is a boolean value that we also need to define. Keep in mind that you always need to include these values, hard code values, inside double quotes. And now I will define what will be the status of the assets that I am creating from JS into Maximo. I have the enable field from JS, and this enable field has the values of 0 or 1. But inside Maximo I have active or inactive and some other values. And then I need to build a conditional value mapping that says that enable equals 0 equals to inactive, and enable equals 1 equals to active. So I'm translating the values into Maximo. We can always click on test mapping to make sure that our mapping is correct. So as we can see, we have enable equals 1 and then status equals to active. I can also define here what will be the classification of the record when this asset is created. And I have a classification record named water hydrant, and this will be the one that I'm going to use here. So hierarchy path is the way to define what will be the classification. I can also define asset specifications. So I need to include one more level in the JSON object mapping and include what will be the asset specification attributes that I want to load. So the ALN value will get the value from the manufacturer, and the asset attribute ID will have the menu value that represents the manufacturer. I also need to include a required field. It's linear asset attribute ID, linear spec ID that equals to 0. This is the default value. Again, we can always go to test mapping to see how the mapping looks like. It looks good now. Can double check the values for the manufacturer. Status. Oh, looks good. Facility ID. And also the object ID that I am using inside the description. Okay. Now that we created our mapping correctly, we need to jump to the Map Manager application to define that specific service layer will be using this mapping that we just created, and the place for this one is the inbound, and you just need to pick the name that you use it there in the JSON mapping inside this one. After this, the last step is to go to the cron task setup application. There is a new cron task inside this application named ArcMap. And inside this application we will define a couple of attributes there. The first one is JS object name. You put the name of the JS hydrant, and the second one the URL. Now you will build a different URL, and this one needs to be using the feature service, not the map service. You click on the layer, scroll down, click on the query operation, and you will build what will be the query that will get the records you want to be processed by ArcGIS into Maximo. So I'm saying that I want to get all records that has MX creation states equals to 4. Out fields, I want all of them, and JSON is the output format. Right now this is the XML, this is the JSON that I'm getting. One thing that you can do in this URL is you may want to clean up what are the parameters that is being sent in this URL. Since we only need three of them, you can remove the ones that are not being used. So you can leave the where, the out fields, and also the format. So you will have a URL that's much easy to read and to maintain if you need to change that in the future. I have my cron task scheduled to run every 10 seconds. So every 10 seconds it will query the records inside JS to get what needs to be processed inside Maximo. You always need to click on reload requests after you change something in the cron. Now I am using ArcMap. This is the JS desktop application, and I will create a couple of new hydrants here, and I want to see these hydrants being created inside Maximo. I want to create hydrants, so I'm going to change the templates. And here I want to create a couple of new records along this line. I have a bunch of them now on top of this line. And let's see how these records look like. So all the 50 records that I just created are selected here on the map, and I can see all of them here inside this table. And now if we jump to the asset application, we can find them on the map, on the list tab, and also on the map if you are using the map. So if we search for one of these records here in the list tab, you will see that I have all of them created here, and we can search for a specific one. This is the JS hydrant that we just created using ArcMap, and this one is here inside Maximo now, with all information that we defined to come from JS into Maximo and in the way that we defined it. So we want the asset description in one way, we want the asset num in another way, the status is different as well. It's based on the values from JS. The classification is assigned, and I also have the specification value for that record. You can navigate in all of them, and they will show up to you. There is another step that you can also define, which is you can send information from Maximo to JS right after the record is created inside Maximo, and this is defining another mapping that is the response mapping. You can go to the JSON mapping application again. We will define another mapping. Now it will be I will name that response mapping, and this will be a outbound. Same object structure. I'll grab the same URL that I used in the first mapping that I created using the map service. Click on the layer, scroll down, click on query, define a where clause that you got only one record with all fields using JSON as the output format. Copy the URL, paste inside Maximo, save, and now let's define the mapping. And this one is on the opposite direction, so the source of the information is Maximo and the target is JS, so it will be on the opposite direction, the mapping as well. So the target property here, I want to change let's fix the mapping. I want to change the attribute lock desk using the asset description from Maximo. So this attribute will be changed inside JS right after the record is created inside Maximo. After we create the mapping, we need to go back to Map Manager to define that information in Map Manager. Just need to put the name of the mapping in there. And there is another one that is the outbound. This one is executed when the records are changed inside Maximo. The first one is when the record is created, and the second one is when the record is changed. Right after the record is changed inside Maximo, we send that information that is inside the mapping to JS. The mapping is very similar to the one that we just created for the response because it's on the same direction. And I'll do the same thing. I'll map what are the changes that I want to send from the asset to my JS record. You can also use the duplicate JSON mapping for this. If you already have a outbound JSON mapping, you can duplicate that and make the changes you need. Well, I have a similar mapping here. And now I need to go to the Map Manager application to define that outbound mapping inside my Map Manager. One more step you need to do is inside the published channels, you need to change the event filter class attribute with the value that is provided inside the documentation. So inside the documentation there is a topic about the synchronization tool, and you need to get the value that is defined there into that attribute for each published channel that is being used. Click Save, and that's it. Now let's create some other records using ArcMap to see the entire flow happening on both directions. So I'll create a new record inside JS, and this new record will be created inside Maximo, Right after this record is created in Maximo, an information will be sent back from Maximo to JS. In this case, I will update the lockdesk attribute, and then we will change that record to see the changes that I make on the asset will be also sent to JS. So I have a couple of new hydrants. Let's take a look on that. Here is my JS record with all information that we have, and here is my asset description. So and now if we take a look on the JS record, that value was sent back from Maximo to JS, and this attribute was updated. We can do also a quick test here. I am changing the asset description, including more information, and I want to see if that information was sent from Maximo to JS as well. And here we can see my record that was updated right after that. Let's take a look now on the debugging options that we have for the sync tool. Inside the integration framework, we have a way to get the informations we want that are being sent back and forth. And the first thing we need to do is go to the enterprise services and enable the message tracking option inside the enterprise services that are being used. In this case, it's only the asset. You will need to mark that checkbox. And you will see two applications, message tracking and message head processing. I already have a couple of records inside message tracking that I was using before. But let's see these records being included inside this application as the process happens. So let me create a couple of new records here. Let's see these messages being included here. So I have 8.9 now, and if I click refresh now I have 9.3. Two messages for each record that I included here. One from JS to Maximo and another one from Maximo to JS. Well, now let's change something in the mapping to create an error, and we will see that error message inside the message tracking, and we will see how to fix them. So I will remove the site ID from my mapping. Site ID is a required field, so my asset will not be created because the site ID is missing. And I will create another one here. Let's create another record. To see that error happening now. Two new records inside JS. If we go back to the JSON mapping application, now we will only see two of them. and we have the error message. So new is not a valid site. You need to provide a valid site for these records. Same thing here. Let's go back to the JSON mapping application and put the site ID back to my mapping. And then we can reprocess that messages that did not get executed because of the site ID was missing in the JSON mapping. We go back to the JSON mapping application again. We can see that record. So this was the first one, and we can go to the message reprocessing application, and we will see the two records that did not get executed. You can mark them, process selected messages, and that specific message was reprocessed with the information that I changed it in the JSON mapping, and now the record is processed without any problems.